Hey guys, this is Coach Goodrich with another Heritage Studies / Ancient Civ video lecture upload. This is designed for my 6th graders, so make sure you guys have your notes out. This is Unit 7, Part 2, and we are leaving behind Japan and going into medieval Europe. So I talk about knights and armor and battles and castles and things like that as we get into this. So make sure you got your notes out so you can fill it out as we're going. The start of the Middle Ages, 476 AD. As we know, the Roman Empire falls and several smaller kingdoms emerge, bringing about the Middle Ages or the medieval period. We get medieval for the word medius, which means middle, and avum, which means age in Latin. As the empire collapsed, various tribes from all over Europe began to invade certain areas. The Visigoths invade Spain, the Ostrogoths invade Italy, the Franks took over Gaul. Franks led to the Frankish kingdoms, which becomes known as France, while the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes took over Britain. Originally, Britain was known as Land of the Angles or Angle Land, and then eventually that was changed into England. So that's kind of where that comes from. The people needed a new source of strength to look up to during this time because the emperors and the Caesars, the Roman Empire, are no longer there. And that strength is going to come from one of the last remnants of the Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church. So medieval Europe, about 500 years after the fall of the Roman Empire, is kind of what it looked like. Split up. This is a painting and illustration of St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City. Vatican City is the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church, and we're going to talk about how power is kind of divided up through that. The head of the Roman Catholic Church, RCC here, is the Pope, Latin word for father, who controls the clergy, the religious leaders, and workers throughout Europe. Many types of clergy, still many types of clergy. You have priests who are going to live and work among the people, teach the church services that you might find at a Catholic church today. Monks are going to live in isolation in monasteries with other monks. They're going to be the most educated, and they're going to be responsible for transcribing a lot of the early books before the printing press is invented. Friars, friar comes from the word for brother. They live among the people, dedicated their lives to service. And the nuns are kind of like the female version of monks. They're going to be isolated as well. A couple of the popes located right here. Priests, funny picture of monks. Friars, more friars. Actually, no, monks, friars, nuns. The Franks, the rulers. First major important ruler of this time period, at least for the Frankish kingdoms in Middle Europe, is Clovis, the ruler of the Franks, a tribe from the Rhine River. He takes over Gaul, which becomes known as France, eventually around 500 AD. He divided his kingdom between his 4 sons, which usually means that they spend most of their time in civil war fighting against each other to see who can take over all their area, and this is no different. Number 2, Charles Martel, skip down a couple generations from Clovis, led his army to defeat the Muslim invasion of Europe at the Battle of Tours in the 700. He becomes known as the Hammer, and he starts what is called the Carolingian dynasty. Pepin the Short, which is a terrible nickname, Charles Martel's son, made an alliance with the Roman Catholic Church and defended them from a Lombard invasion, leading to him receiving a specific blessing from the Pope and other priests, which really solidifies the relationship between the crown, at least kings in this region, and the Roman Catholic Church ruling together. Clovis, Charles Martel, the Hammer, complete with Hammer, and then Pepin the Short. The most important king of this dynasty is Pepin the Short's son, Charles. He becomes known as Charles Magnus, which is Latin for Charles the Great, or, as we've combined it together, Charlemagne. Charlemagne becomes the greatest of the Carolingian line of kings and rules for nearly 45 years. He was named Emperor of the Western Roman Empire, which is funny because it didn't exist anymore, by the Pope on December 25th, Christmas Day in the year 800, after helping to defend Rome and the Vatican from the invading Saxons and Lombard tribes. He increased the size of the Frankish kingdom to include most of Western Europe, divided the land into manors, which is going to lead into the feudalistic system that we'll talk about a little bit later on, that are each going to be controlled by a lord and worked by peasants. And there is Charlemagne. Charlemagne being king king, or being crowned king on Christmas Day in the year 800. Charlemagne and education. He became one of the most influential proponents for education and invited many scholars to his court to study and teach others. Students who studied would learn about reading, writing, math, astronomy. And he also ordered a church scholar named Alcuin to come up with a new, more legible style of writing, which serves as a basis for our writing in the English today. Division of the Frankish Empire. After Charlemagne's death, his son Louis the Pious ruled and eventually divided his kingdom between his three sons. Louis the German in the east, which makes sense because it's the area now known as Germany. Charles the Bald in the west, which is another terrible nickname, and then Lothair in the middle. Louis's land became known as Germany, Charles' land became known as France, and they both fought over Lothair's middle portion for a very long time. Poor Lothair. Eastern Frankish became known as German, while Western Frankish became known as French. There's Louis the Pious, pictured with his cross. The Western, Eastern, and Kingdom of Lothair in the middle. And then your three brothers right here. Louis, Charles, and Lothair. And this is where we're going to leave it off for today, so make sure that you tune in for the last video of the semester, turns out, in this series, or at least of this series, as we're working our way forward, that you're filling in your notes, and that you're logging onto RenWeb every single day, going over lesson plans, downloading the supporting documents so that you get everything that you need. Miss you guys, and we will talk to you guys soon.